All right, folks. Well, I'm back from the Mad City 100K. Unfortunately, it did not go well. I aggravated Achilles tendon during the race. It was around lap 3 of the 10K loop. I started noticing some discomfort back there, and it just sort of progressively got worse to the point where when I was on the 5th loop, I was like, all right, this is going to be a problem if I try to do another 5 loops or 50 kilometers on this thing. And I didn't want to, take that risk. So I pulled the plug at 50K and started kind of like assessing the situation from there on forward. And I've been back in Austin now for almost a week, but I did get to see the PT pretty much right away when I got back on Monday, and we started putting together a bit of an action plan because Achilles tendons are maybe a little bit of a goofier thing when people start digging into them. It's not something where you want to be like, all right, I can't load it at all, or I don't want to load it at all. It actually should be loaded to some capacity, but you got to strike that balance between loading it enough for it to get stronger and healthy again and at the right rate versus going right back to what you were doing before that was clearly not keeping it as happy as it needed to be. So for some background too, I had some issues with this tendon at the end of last year. I thought I had gotten past that. The last 2 months, I really didn't notice it in training at all, other than after one session. I woke up in the morning, it was a little tender, and I took an easy bike day instead, and it was perfectly fine the following day after that. So really there wasn't a ton of warning signs, but clearly it wasn't up to the task. So, I've got some considerations in terms of stability of the shoes and things like that too, that could potentially add to a tendon that's maybe a little bit behind. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of it is building the right structure to be able to tolerate whatever it is you're going to wear from an efficiency standpoint on race day for the shoe stuff. So that might be something I need to explore as well, is like the frequency in which I wear whatever shoe I plan to race in, and kind of getting a better scope of how my body is going to need to be able to withstand it essentially. So those are some things that are coming up. For now, I'm going to be doing a lot of biking. So this is actually day 5 of my biking journey. I've got an indoor stationary bike that was sent to me by Yusul actually a couple weeks ago. So it was actually kind of ironic that happened to be the case, but I'm going to be on that quite a bit for the foreseeable future, regardless of how quickly the tendon heals. I think I'm going to go through this next stage of training with the mindset of doing a lot more biking than I normally would in place of some of the running that I would do otherwise. So as I build back up the loading that the Achilles can tolerate through running and some plyos and strengthening and stuff like that, I'm going to be biking to fill the gaps, and then I'll peel back a little bit on biking as I'm able to add more running. But I think I'm going to keep it as a pretty big component of the training cycle, which is something I've never done before. I've done biking in training and I've included it, but it's always been a very, very, very small aspect of it. And the only time I've really pulled that lever has been when I've been injured in the past and I couldn't run. So I wanted to preserve fitness through something else, and the bike was what option I had there. But this is pretty much a new journey in terms of kind of using it in tandem with running for what I hope to be a lead up to a race, which is the 100-miler I was planning on doing in June. Haven't pulled the plug on that yet. If my Achilles isn't up for the task, I won't force it because it's not going to be something that ends well. Obviously, if it couldn't tolerate the 100K, it's not going to tolerate 100 miles. So we'll be monitoring that, but I'm optimistic that I can get things sorted, and I'm very curious just to see what kind of progress you can get on a performance side of things running ultramarathons with a little bit more of a bike focus than what I would have done in the past. And that's something I've thought about in the past, but I've just never put that plan into action. And now I'm in a situation where I have no choice. So good time to explore those waters. But yeah, so we're gonna head up there. I'll take you up there. We'll do some biking today. I did a speed workout on Tuesday, a lot of easy base stuff the rest of the days. I have noticed that on the easy and base days, I'll still throw in some surges just because it helps pass the time and it makes it a little more fun. And discovered Zwift yesterday too, so that's also a big motivation booster in my opinion. I feel like it's good for 10-15 watts or something like that on average, just being in the virtual community biking versus slogging it out on your own. So we're gonna head up there and see what we can do on the bike this morning. Before I go out, pretty typical pre-morning workout routine. This is usually what I do for running during the midweek when I'm doing something probably in around the 90-minute range or something like that. A cup of coffee to get my caffeine in. I'll have half a packet of Element, which is my go-to electrolyte supplement. And I do half a packet because I'll have about a liter of fluids in combination with this coffee, and my sweat loss rate suggests that I get about 614 milligrams for every liter of fluid, and one of these Element packets is about twice that. So I try to keep that balanced. I'll be sipping on some Element during the ride too, because I just sweat an insane amount on this bike compared to running outside in the winter. Other thing I'll usually have before, I'm keeping it pretty simple. It's just coffee and some milk in there, and then the Element, and then I'll have a couple of these New Zealand crayons tabs, which are getting a lot more evidence. I think there's like 40 some studies now that suggest that it can be helpful in improving endurance performance and recovery and things like that. So if you check out their website, they've got all sorts of info on that on there. But I've been doing that this year. This is something new this year. I started in, I believe it was in January. So we're going to see how that plays out over the course of the year and through some racing and training and things like that. So 2 of these. Coffee. Let's go do it. All right, here's my indoor setup right now. As I mentioned earlier, this brand, Usul, sent me this bike a couple weeks ago. So we're gonna try it out. I haven't broke it yet on day 5, so it's holding up to the task right now. It linked up to Zwift with no problem. So today, what I'm gonna do is, I've got a few things going on actually. I love binging YouTube videos of people doing workouts during these things. That's what I've discovered over my brief cycling journey so far. So I've already plowed through basically all the Clayton Young YouTube videos on his build to Boston, and then All Access Tracks, workout of Connor Manson, all that stuff. So I'm looking for some new stuff. Feel free to send it my way if you think, hey, this is a cool one, check it out. Today, I'm going to be diving into Charlie Lawrence's YouTube channel, which he just launched this year. Had him on the podcast the other day. He recently won the 50K National Championships in Madison and has the 50-mile world record. And he is gassing up for a big shot at the 100K world record later this year at Tunnel Hill. So I'm going to dive into the videos he's got up there right now. I think he's got 4 episodes so far for this year, and he's going to keep pushing them out there. So we'll be seeing more from Charlie, I'm sure, while I'm on the bike as we go forward. But for today's workout, what I'm going to do, it's going to be something in the 75 to 90 minute duration, and I'm going to do some shorter intervals of the 1 minute duration. So in the 1 minute on is going to be a hard push, so probably somewhere near VO2 max intensity, which for me, I'm just basically going on perceived effort as of now, because that's what I'm carrying over from the running side of things. As I maybe get more bike miles under me and get more data collected and stuff like that, I'll get a little more precise as to what that would mean from a watt standpoint or a power standpoint and things like that. So for now, we're going perceived effort and just dialing in the same sensation as I would get if I was doing a similar workout on the run, but on the bike. So I've got my laptop synced up to the screen on here. It's just a quick plug-in, and then it just screenshots it over there. So that's where I'm gonna have the YouTube going, pumping through the speaker here. And then I have Zwift on the phone, which is what the bike is linked up to, so I can track everything like miles per hour, watts, and all that stuff. So we are leveraging all the technology. Charlie Lawrence, for those of you guys that don't know, professional marathoner, professional ultra runner, 50-mile world record holder. Welcome to my YouTube channel. It's gonna be a fun year. I'm gonna take you guys kind of through all of it. You're gonna see how I train, kind of what I eat in a day, typical day in the life. We're gonna do it all for you. We're currently in that basement, which is working on finishing up my gym, so you'll see that, and you'll see my build up to ultimately going and trying to. All right, got the warm up in on a Zwift coffee break, so I got 3 minutes to hop back on this thing and start the workout. So far with the warm up, 12.2 miles and averaged 222 watts. So that's some baseline data for you. But yeah, 15 minutes on, 15 minutes off, good hard push on the ons, and we'll see where we're at for a cool down and see how far we end up going for that. But let's get back on and get going here. Slides, all the above, rude. Supreme comb digger phone, 3, trench coat, 2, 1, box logo. Go. Again. All right.
No hot spot.
So Marcus,
Rep 1 done.
what's your position with Charlie?
My position is.
Hitting
What is my position?
around 350?
Charlie's
350 watts?
trying to keep him as healthy.
We need some time on these workouts to pump those numbers up.
himself over the weeks.
We're getting there though.
He seems like a really down-to-earth and cool guy, and he's actually a drummer in a punk rock band.
Last one in 3, 2, 1. All right, got him in. That's 15. Was hitting at or maybe a bit above 350 watts on that, so honestly, effort felt like I would imagine it would had I done that workout outside. So really, that's all I care about. It'll be fun to see maybe how those numbers shift over time if I keep doing these type of workouts on the bike, and kind of use these as introductory benchmark numbers and see that as kind of like a moving target to move all that stuff up at that same intensity I just did today. So the way I like to do all my speed work is intensity stays constant, whether it's the first session of the year, the last session of the year. What changes, hopefully, is the pace at which you're able to do them at. So intensity stays constant. We're looking to hit that intensity, that's the goal. And then improvement is shown by improvement in velocity or pace, or in this case, power would be an even better kind of model to predict off of. Running, not so much. So here we go, we got it. I've got about, I have myself scheduled for anywhere between 15, 30 minutes on a cool down based on kind of how I feel. Feel pretty good. The legs aren't dragging after that. I suspect I probably just need some more strength and power before I can get those watts up high enough where I'm just like really tanked after it. But I think I've got about 5 miles left on this route on Zwift, so I'll probably at least go to there and then see where we're at. But probably around 20 minutes or so. We'll call it good. As you can see, I'm absolutely soaked. So, being a noob, I need to get myself a cycling kit that maybe does a little better job of keeping me at least feel semi-dry indoors, however possible that is. Yeah, so kit ideas,
Just like 39
options you like,
which I think
send them my way. I'm in the market.
max is like 452.